All right, so we're diving in, deep diving that is, into the book thief. And we've got excerpts, notes, the whole shebang ready to uncover what makes this book tick.
And I think the most immediate thing you notice right off the bat is who's telling the story. Death.
Death.
Death. And not like, symbolic death, but literally death. As a character, he's the one telling us Liesel's story.
Okay, gotta be honest. Death as a narrator, that's not exactly the cheeriest way to start a book. Does it make the whole thing, like, super dark?
You'd think so, right? But actually, no, not at all. See, Zusak's death, he's, well, almost gentle. Tired, definitely burdened by his job, but he's also got this, like, strange fascination with humans, especially the way they fight to stay alive.
Yeah, and he notices these little details, these beautiful things you wouldn't expect. I remember being struck by how much he talks about colors. Waxy yellows, cloud spat blues, things like that. It's almost like he's looking for distractions, from all the death.
Exactly. He even calls color his saving grace, his way to cope with all the souls he has to collect. There's this scene early on, really powerful, where he's carrying a small soul after a bombing, and even with all that devastation around him, he's focused on the home-cooked red of the sky.
Wow. It's beautiful, but also kind of haunting. Really sets the tone, though, finding light in dark places.
Totally. And it's in this atmosphere, this world painted in those colors, that we meet Liesel Meminger, the book thief herself.
Little Liesel, sent to live on Himmel Street in Nazi Germany with foster parents she doesn't know. Talk about being thrown into the fire.
Right. She's lost her brother, separated from her mother, on top of everything she can't even read.
Oh, man. And we can't forget the political climate, right? This is Nazi Germany. Fear, uncertainty, it's everywhere.
Woven into everything.
A lot for a young girl to handle. Zusak doesn't sugarcoat things. You really feel the harsh realities, but somehow he also shows how resilient people can be.
Absolutely. And for Liesel, a big part of that resilience comes from her relationship with words. Think back to that scene with the gravedigger, the book that falls out of his bag after he buries Liesel's brother.
The Gravedigger's Handbook, right?
That's the one. And she holds on to it like it's precious.
It becomes more than just a book, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. It's her lifeline, her first stolen treasure, and it's really the beginning of her journey with literacy. And that journey, it changes everything for her.
And speaking of things that change her, Himmel Street itself feels alive in the book, like it's its own character.
Oh, it totally is.
We meet the Hubermans, her foster parents. You've got Hans, the kind soul who teaches her to read.
And Rosa, who, well, she's tough, but underneath it all, she's got a good heart. Runs a tight ship, that one.
Can't forget Rudy, Liesel's best friend. The boy who idolizes Jesse Owens, dreams of being this amazing runner.
Which, in Nazi Germany, that's a quiet rebellion, but a powerful one. Think about it. This kid, he's surrounded by propaganda telling him who to admire, and he chooses a black athlete. Speaks volumes about his character.
It's those little acts of defiance, the moments of humanity that just shine through, that make the book thief so captivating. These are flawed people, real people, just trying to figure things out in the midst of impossible circumstances.
Exactly. And as Liesel finds her place on Himmel Street, her world grows, her connection with words gets deeper, and you can feel that her story, it's really just beginning.
And that journey with words is really helped along by Hans, her foster father. He becomes her guide.
Yeah, definitely.
Those late night reading sessions they have in the basement, painting words on the wall, it's almost like a secret club, their own little world.
It is a secret world. And it's such a powerful image, this shared experience, this intimacy, especially when so much of their lives is about fear and hiding.
Because their world, it gets a whole lot more complicated when Max Vandenburg shows up.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly, they're hiding a Jewish man from the Nazis. The stakes, they just got incredibly real.
Huge risk. And you really see Hans's character come through in those moments.
Yeah.
Because we find out about his past. World War I, he was spared, really, by a Jewish soldier. Eric Vandenburg.
No way.
Max's father.
Wow. So it's like history is rhyming?
Exactly.
Only this time, it's Hans who gets to be the protector.
He feels responsible, like he has to help Max repay that kindness that was shown to him years ago.
Even if it means putting his own life on the line. His family, too.
It's a huge decision. And Liesel, as young as she is, she gets it. You can tell she forms this bond with Max. They read together, share stories down in that basement.
And it's a little haven.
It really becomes a sanctuary, a place apart from all the fear and chaos.
Words as escape again. But it's not just the basement, right? Liesel, she finds comfort in words elsewhere, too. What about Ilsa Hermann? the mayor's wife.
Oh, Ilsa.
Stealing books from her library, that's a bold move.
Bold, but complicated too, right? I mean, at first you think it's just Liesel being defiant, but there's more to it with those two.
Oh, definitely. Ilsa's lost her son, and you get the sense that she sees a little bit of him in Liesel.
There's a connection there.
She gives Liesel books, a place to read, a kind of understanding she's not getting anywhere else.
For sure.
Mm.
But it's messy too.
Mm.
Liesel's dealing with the guilt of stealing, and Ilsa, she's got her own grief, her own struggles, figuring out where she fits in this world that's becoming more and more cruel.
Neither one of them has it easy.
It shows you how morally complex things were. You know, it's not about good guys and bad guys, not really. Everyone's trying to make impossible choices in an impossible time.
Tough spot all around. But through it all, Liesel finds her own voice. She starts writing. Writing down what she's going through. The losses, the little bits of joy. She even starts writing her own stories.
Powerful.
It's like she's taking control. You know, instead of letting things happen to her, she's shaping her own narrative, finding a way to make sense of it all.
And that's where the book's title, it takes on another layer, doesn't it? I mean, she's not just stealing books for what they are, physical objects. She's stealing words, stories, ideas, making them her own.
Becoming the book thief.
Exactly.
And then there's the word shaker, the story that Max writes for her, a story within the story.
Such a powerful element.
It's about the power of language.
Absolutely. Max shows Liesel how words can be used for good or evil, how they can build you up or tear you down.
And that line, I have hated words and I have loved them and I hope I have made them right.
Gives me chills every time.
Me too. Because it reminds you we all have this responsibility to use our words carefully.
Especially when things are chaotic, uncertain.
Because words, they can be weapons, but they can also bring people together, give them hope.
And hope, in Liesel's world, that's a precious thing. Especially as the war gets worse.
The bombing raids, they just keep coming.
More frequent, more destructive.
And Himmel Street, well, it's not safe anymore. Himmel Street bombed. It's almost like Death, well, our narrator, Death, he steps closer during that part. You really feel him there.
Yeah, he's right there in the middle of it. Watching the destruction, seeing those innocent lives lost. And yet, even then, he notices these little glimmers, you know, those moments of grace that somehow shine through, even in all the darkness.
And for me, one of those moments, it's Liesel. Surviving that bombing. Crawling out of the rubble, hurt but alive, still holding on to that book. The word shaker.
It's like those words, that story. Yeah. It grounded her, gave her something to hold on to when everything else was literally falling apart. Powerful stuff.
It makes you think. Even in the worst times, there are still stories to tell. Stories that need to be heard. And that's what Liesel does, right? She gets through the war, finds Max again, and you get the feeling she lives a good life. A life full of words.
She does. But she carries those losses with her. The people she cared about, gone. And that's where, well, having Death as the narrator, it just hits you harder.
Because it's Death who finds Liesel's story, the one she's been writing. The book thief. He takes it with him.
Yeah. It's like he's saying, this story matters. This life mattered. Even though it was hard, even though there was so much pain, it deserves to be remembered.
He becomes the guardian of her story, makes sure it lives on.
And in a way, don't we do the same thing? When we read something that moves us, when we connect with a story like Liesel's, we carry it with us, right? Share it with other people. Those experiences, those lessons, they keep resonating.
It's a powerful thought. So, having taken this deep dive into The Book Thief, what's something that sticks with you?
You know, it always comes back to the power of words. They can comfort us, challenge us, stay with us long after the book is closed. Liesel's story, with Death as our guide through it all, it reminds us that our own stories, even the small, quiet ones, they have meaning. They can touch other people's lives. And that's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. That's The Book Thief, folks. A story for anyone who's ever found refuge in words or wondered about the stories we leave behind. Until next time, keep those pages turning.